Welcome to Politics for Patriots. Here's your host, the eviscerator of progressive nonsense, the executioner of imbecility, and the grim reaper of BS, Eddie Zipper.
All right, welcome to episode 94 of the Politics for Patriots podcast. If you haven't already, please subscribe on iTunes, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. Just a reminder, on Tuesday, November 5th, I have a brand new podcast coming out. Me and Matt and Scott from the Politics podcast have created a special American history podcast. It's called Every Election Ever and Beer. We start with the presidential election of 1789, and each week we're going to talk about a different election leading up to the presidential election of 2020. And oh yeah, we'll also be talking about beer.
Beer.
Every Election Ever in Beer is going to launch on November 5th. It's a fantastic podcast. We've already done several episodes. I guarantee if you listen, your biggest takeaway will be that presidential election madness and American politics have been basically the same from the very beginning as they are today. The mainstream media likes to pretend that everything is new and unprecedented in the age of Trump. But that's not even close to true, and we're going to prove it to you. So please be the first to subscribe when it launches on November 5th. In the meantime, you can follow the podcast on Twitter at @ElectionAndBeer. All right, today's question is going to start out, will House Democrats impeach President Trump? But it may not end with that being the question. We'll see. We'll get through it. We'll go through the information and we'll decide if that's really the question we should be asking. I've said in episode after episode that I don't believe that they will impeach him. A brand new poll came out. This is a New York Times Siena poll that has me right on the cusp of saying there is literally no way that House Democrats are going to impeach Donald Trump. When they see this poll, there is no way that they are going to impeach the president. In case you haven't heard, here's some breaking news. There's a pretty big election coming up in 2020. It's a presidential election. And the Democratic Party might be in some trouble when that election comes around. It's just over a year away now. The Democratic Party has, like everyone else, a finite amount of political capital. And right now, they have chosen to spend it on nonsense instead of spending it on getting a Democrat elected president. It's inexplicable that they would spend capital on a dead impeachment when Trump's term is winding down. And when I say a dead impeachment, I mean when this thing gets to the Senate, bye-bye, it's gone. That's the end of it. So I've heard a ton in the media about national polls that show, impeaching and removing Trump is so popular. We have to do it for all these people who just really want it to happen. I mean, they never stop with these polls. They're like a new poll shows a majority wants Trump to be impeached, and therefore it should just happen, and evidence shouldn't matter, and the substance of the claim shouldn't matter. Just do it. Just do it. So I've heard a ton in the media about those national polls, but you know what? I haven't heard a ton about the new New York Times Siena poll, which measured the popularity of impeaching and removing Trump in 6 key swing states: Pennsylvania, Michigan, Florida, Wisconsin, Arizona, and North Carolina. In these swing states, 43% are for impeachment and removal, while 53% are against it. So 53 are against it, 43 are for it. So that's a pretty hefty majority there against impeaching President Trump and removing him from office. Oh, man. Do Democrats know that there's a presidential election coming up? I don't think, don't get me wrong here, I do not believe that impeachment should be based on polling data. But I do think it's worth noting that a decision by House Democrats to impeach Trump for nonsense could completely sink their 2020 candidate in all the battleground states. Now, the media has been all over the national polls that say, oh, everybody's for impeachment, everybody hates Trump. But, I mean, they've covered this New York Times Siena poll, but not so that you'll see it. They just pop it in one article, hide it on the website so that maybe 5 people will see it, and then everybody will just forget about it. Okay, so that's the way that they cover a poll like this when they don't like the result.
No, go past this part. In fact, never play this again.
But then later, if you say to them, why didn't you show that poll? Then they go, look, it's right there on our website. Let me just say, based on this poll in the battleground states, I mean, who cares if people in California are for impeaching Trump or not? I mean, oh, great, Democrats, you made the people in California happy. Now you'll probably win their electoral votes like you have every single time in the last bajillion presidential elections. I'll tell you, looking at this poll, the House Democrats really better have something against Trump, or else they are going to piss off a big majority in all of these battleground states. You really can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, we're going to impeach Trump in California, but we're not going to impeach him in Wisconsin. Doesn't work that way. I'm going to be honest with you. If you want Trump to win the 2020 election and all you care about is politics, this poll should literally have you hoping that Trump gets impeached. If that's the way that you view politics, then you should be rooting for Trump to get impeached because it is going to kill the Democrats in these states. Now, me, that's not how I operate. I care about the precedent that they set for impeachment, and I care about our institutions, so I do not hope that they impeach Trump for nonsense. I hope they come to their senses. I mean, think of it. If you think Hillary Clinton hurt her campaign in Wisconsin by not showing up there and doing some dumb rally, imagine the damage House Democrats will do there if they impeach President Trump for phony offenses. They're going to destroy their candidate in that state and a bunch of other battleground states, according to this poll. Are they really going to throw everything away just to appease a small group of rabid Trump haters who go around with their brains on fire about Trump all day like...
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart, I want to eat his children.
That's what they sound like to me, just a bunch of geniuses. Just the really high IQ people among us. But they're doing it. They're going through these motions because impeachment is what the far left base of the Democratic Party has been demanding since the beginning. They have literally never cared what he was impeached for. Not ever, not for 1 second. They started looking for a way to get rid of Trump the day after he was elected. Right? The media railed against the Electoral College as if they could somehow make the ex post facto case to throw out the election because the Electoral College isn't fair. Normal people right now believe that the Nationals are up 2-1 in the World Series, but I'm guessing that leftist outlets like Vox or Slate think that the Nationals are winning 18 runs to 11 runs. Because counting all the runs is the only fair way to decide. That's democracy, even though there has literally never been a time that it worked that way in the entire history of baseball. We don't like the rules that were set beforehand, so change the rules. They didn't work out in our favor, so get rid of them. Millions of these far leftists signed a petition demanding that the electors not vote for Trump, like the states told them to. They love democracy so much that they want electors to look at the results from their states and go, nah, I don't think I'll vote like that. That's how much they love democracy. Like everything they do, it's like, we've got to stand up for democracy. But they actually don't care about democracy. They just know that's a good buzzword. They hate populism, which is essentially the carrying out of democratic ideas. Oh, the most people want that, so even if it's a bad idea, let's do it. They don't care about any of the other things that our government is based on other than democracy because they're not good buzzwords. Federalism is not a good buzzword. I mean, go run a political campaign and say, we have to stand up for federalism. Boring. How about republicanism? Not capital R republicanism like the party, but little r republicanism. Do they care about that? No, that's really what our government is based on, is republicanism. We're all Democratic Republicans, in the vein of Thomas Jefferson. All right, I went off on such a tangent, I can't remember what I was talking about. Electoral college, I think. So, millions of people went online and signed a petition demanding that the electors not vote for Trump, because he's bad. And the media tried to proliferate that petition. They wanted everybody to hear it and get as many signatures as they possibly could. I mean, that's the whole reason I even know about it. It was all over the news. It was all over CNN and MSNBC for like a week. Under the guise of reporting on the petition, the media ran basically commercials for it. It was like, breaking news. Over 5 million people have signed a petition urging electors not to vote for Donald Trump. They signed it by going to moveon.org/stoptrump/orangemanbad. That's moveon.org/stoptrump/orangemanbad. Or you can download the petitions app from the iTunes App Store. And the best part is, it won't cost you a thing. Right? It's just seamless media advertising. It's like when you're listening to Hannity's radio show and 1 second he's talking about politics and you're right along with him. And then the next second he's selling you something and you're like, hey, wait a second. Hannity, Hannity, it always works. Hannity says something like, dealing with the liberals and the far left all day totally wears me out. And you're like, yup, I hear that. And Hannity's like, that's why I have to get the best sleep I possibly can get. And you're like, all right, makes sense. And then Hannity's like, that's why I have the sleep number bed. And you're like, wait a second. I see what this is.
It's like people only do things because they get paid. And that's just really sad.
I mean, I'm joking, of course. That's an advertisement on Hannity's show. That's how he makes money having a show. That's how it works. But the Democrats are doing it. They're not getting paid, hopefully. But they do like to throw in commercials that sound like the news. We're reporting on this petition not because it's so important, because it's not. It's stupid. But we want you to actually go to moveon.org, and we want they're awful. I dislike the mainstream media more with each passing day. Also, at that time, between the time Trump was elected and the time the electors actually voted, I remember there was some GOP elector, I think he was from Texas, and he said that he was going to be a faithless elector and jam his finger in the eye of Texas voters and not vote for Trump. And he got the hero treatment from the media for that whole week. It was like, oh, now we have with us Texas elector who says he won't vote for Trump. And they're like, why are you such a hero? And he's like, I guess I'm just awesome. That's paraphrased. I don't remember what they really said, but I remember him doing a bajillion interviews. Okay, then before Trump was even inaugurated, they were going to impeach him for violating the emoluments clause for the obvious reason that emoluments is a big word that is likely to impress the far left. They had never heard the word in their life until Trump became president of the United States, and then suddenly it became their favorite word of all time. They all had conversations with each other where they just used that word over and over and then patted each other on the back for knowing that word. Their conversations were like, emoluments? Oh, yes, emoluments, quite. Yes, emoluments, indubitably. It sounded something like this.
If you were drafting the articles of impeachment for the president, what would be Article 1, 2, and 3?
Well, I think number 1 is emoluments. I think it's always been emoluments. It's always been about that for me.
Mm-hmm.
Totally, AOC. It's always been about the emoluments. That was on the Skullduggery podcast ages ago. I wish they had asked her what the word means. Like, she'd be like, oh, for me, it's always been about the emoluments. Like, I think that he should be impeached because of emoluments. And then they should be like, oh, yes, and could you tell us what emoluments are? And she would be like, emoluments are bad. Like really, I'm not the expert on emoluments, but I think they're pretty bad things, these emoluments. No, I'm just kidding. She knew what emoluments meant. She said later in the podcast when they were interviewing her, she said what emoluments meant. I'm just being mean. See how fair I am giving the context? I could have just left it. Yeah, she doesn't know what emoluments mean, and everybody would have believed me, but I'm a very fair person, so I wouldn't do that. Still, I have the feeling that she learned only recently what the word meant. That's what they teach you now on day one of being a House Democrat. They teach you the meaning of the word emoluments so that you can say it with authority on podcasts. So then after the emolument storyline bit the dust, Trump had to be impeached because collusion. Ooh, that sounds way scarier. Russian collusion. Adam Joe McCarthy Schiff went on every TV show in existence to tell us about all the proof that Trump colluded with Russia. He never had any evidence, but he was like, dude, I got the evidence right here in my pocket. Oh my gosh. Oh man. My pants are basically falling down because there's so much evidence in my pockets. I can't show it to you right now, but it's in there. Oh yeah, there was Russia collusion. Trump was up to here with Russia collusion. The media decided it was definitely true because they covered Democrats without an ounce of skepticism ever. So if a Democrat said it is definitely true, the media broke about a dozen huge Russia collusion stories. Of course, they had to retract every single one of them. Lots of reporters got fired for finding all that Russia collusion. Every single reporter for these mainstream media outlets decided that they were Woodward and Bernstein, and then they all turned out to be Ron Burgundy. It was a mess, and of course, swampy Republicans, not all Republicans, but the swampy ones, they get real scared about everything the media says, so they're like, oh my gosh, Russia collusion, there's no evidence, but I'm super scared because the media is saying it, so let's appoint a special counsel right now. And so we got a special counsel. He dug and dug for 2 years. Adam Schiff told us about all the huge things that he was probably finding, and then his report came out and there was no Russia collusion. Dude had unlimited resources to conduct his witch hunt against Trump to find Russia collusion. Unlimited time, unlimited resources. He could not find one single piece of evidence that anyone, even remotely connected to Trump, had ever done anything to collude with Russia ever. So then, after that, of course, Trump needed to be impeached for obstructing justice. Why? Because he expressed a desire to stop an investigation into something that we know now he never did to begin with. Oh, the audacity. Nobody bought that. After Mueller showed up before Congress and pretended to be an incompetent old man and basically disavowed all knowledge of his own disastrous witch hunt. You remember? Here's Mueller talking to Congress. What happened? There was a report?
Me no recall. Me fuzzy on that one.
Is that all you can do is laugh about most of it? So I continue to believe that the House Democrats will not impeach President Trump. Right now on predictit.com, the price for shares of yes, Trump will be impeached is about 74 cents. That's very high. That's a very high cost, which means those are valuable shares because everybody thinks that Trump is going to get impeached, or at least 3/4 of people. Shares of no, Trump won't be impeached are at about 26 cents a share. I say go buy shares of no, Trump won't be impeached. I think that those are the valuable shares. They are going to appreciate to $1 a share at the end of Trump's term. I bought a bunch of them myself. You can go to predictit.com/promo/Patriots20. That's predictit.com/promo/Patriots20 and open an account. If you use my URL, Predictit will double your initial investment of up to $20. That's free money. And you can use your political knowledge to make that money into more money. So, I have the money in my Predictit account invested in Trump won't be impeached for Several reasons. Number one, they're not going to impeach him because he, finger quotes, pressured, close finger quotes, the president of Ukraine into investigating Biden. The president of Ukraine, Zelensky, told the press that he did not feel pressured. You've probably heard that already. But even more compelling than that is the evidence that Zelensky really, truly didn't feel pressured, which is the fact that he did not investigate it. Are there subsequent phone calls where Trump says, "Hey, Zelensky, you haven't done it yet. You better do it. Oh, I'll be so mad if you don't." My experience watching Trump over the last few years tells me that that isn't really his style of pressuring someone. Saying something one time in passing and then they don't do it and then he never mentions it again. Yeah, I don't think that's how Trump rolls. I don't think that's how he applies pressure. Okay, there was no pressure. Trump said it, probably shouldn't have, but he did. But there was no pressure. Obviously, if Zelensky had felt pressured, he would have gone and done the investigation. Because what does he lose if he does the investigation? It's not like Trump wins and he loses if he does the investigation. It's Trump wins and Zelensky does the investigation. I mean, what does he care? He doesn't have a vested interest in Joe Biden. He doesn't have a vested interest in American politics. He doesn't care. He doesn't lose if he does that investigation. But he didn't do it. If there had been something he could lose, why not go do it? But he didn't. Okay, so if you're impeaching Trump for that, you're impeaching the President of the United States for literally saying something. Not for the result of what he said, but literally for words that he said. It's like if Republicans had impeached Obama for saying to Medvedev that he'd have more flexibility after the election. You remember that? Just give me time until after the election and then I'll have more flexibility. And then Medvedev was like, "I will transmit this to Vladimir." Now people said, hey, what kind of promises is Obama making to Russia? What was that about? What are they talking about? There was a Republican majority. Why didn't they impeach President Obama for the words that he said? Okay, if you were a Republican representative and you were just out to get Obama, you could have said that he was soliciting an in-kind campaign contribution from Russia. Ease up on me for now, and then after the election, I'll offer up my flexibility to you. Right? You say that's what he's doing. He's soliciting an in-kind campaign contribution from a foreign national. Bring people into the House to testify. And then once it gets in the House and they're investigating it, you find out what the issue was that they were talking about. Oh, you get some whistleblowers who come in and they say, yeah, here's what Obama was promising. Oh, my God, and it sounds super bad. And then you go impeach him. I mean, it's the same thing. That's the law that they seem to be accusing Trump of having violated, right? It's against the law to solicit an in-kind campaign contribution from a foreign national. An in-kind contribution means it's not money, it's a contribution of goods or services. This is a crazy, crazy stretch for impeachment. I mean, if you impeach Trump for asking a foreign national to do something that could possibly benefit him, you could literally impeach every president that there has ever been, and definitely every future president. The only difference between Trump suggesting an investigation of Biden's son and Obama asking not to be pressured until after the election is that the media cares about the former and they chose to ignore the latter. Because it didn't matter to them because it was a Democrat and they don't care. Those things are equal. They won't seem equal because we'll learn every detail about the thing that Trump said and we never got to learn anything about the thing that Obama said. So they don't seem equal. But they are. That's the same thing. The president said something that we don't like because it sounds like he's trying to get help getting elected from a foreign government. That's the same thing. It just doesn't seem the same because Trump's getting investigated like crazy for it and maybe impeached for it. And with Obama, it was like, oh, Obama said that thing, who cares? The thing they are accusing Trump of having done simply does not rise to the level of something that is an impeachable offense. Nobody in American history has ever been impeached for something this benign except another president, Andrew Johnson. I'll talk about that in a second. Most impeachments don't make news, you see, because they aren't questionable and therefore they're not interesting. Somebody breaks the law, they get impeached, it goes to the Senate removes them. Or they get impeached and then they resign. Most of these are not political. They're people being impeached because they actually deserve to be impeached. Adam Schiff has been a manager on 2 other House impeachments. Did you know that? No, because you don't hear anything about other people getting impeached because they're not the president, it's not interesting, and it's not political. All right? Impeachment managers are like the members of the House who take the case before the Senate. They take the case to the Senate. We all remember the impeachment of Samuel Kent, right? Impeached in the House of Representatives, and then he resigned. We all remember the impeachment of G. Thomas Porteous, impeached by the House, found guilty by the Senate, and disqualified. Not only was he removed from office, the Senate disqualified him from ever holding office in the United States ever again. Those aren't very old impeachments. They were in 2009, 2010. Adam Schiff served as one of the House managers on both of those impeachments. One of those judges was appointed by Bill Clinton, and one of them was appointed by George H.W. Bush. But nobody was upset about it because they're low-profile people, for one thing. And for another thing, they actually committed impeachable offenses that they deserved to be removed for, and everybody knew it. That's how the process is supposed to work. And when it does work that way, it's bipartisan, and you actually get something done that needs to be done. Somebody committed this impeachable offense, they get impeached by the House, the Senate removes them, and nobody is mad because they deserved it. However, impeachment doesn't always work like that. Sometimes it is wielded as a political weapon by the House of Representatives. And you end up with impeachments like the impeachment that happened to Andrew Johnson. I'm not a fan of Andrew Johnson, but I can look at his impeachment and tell you that it was unfair. Obviously, it was just a partisan game because they hated Andrew Johnson, right? Andrew Johnson broke a law and got impeached. But the law he broke, if you're interested, is the Tenure of Office Act, an unconstitutional law. It's an unconstitutional. It was decided by the Supreme Court of the United States later that this was an unconstitutional law. The Tenure of Office Act said that the president could not fire anybody without the approval of the Senate. He couldn't fire cabinet members without the approval of the Senate. Why did they pass that law? Because they wanted to protect Abraham Lincoln's cabinet. After Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, a Democrat, Andrew Johnson, was his vice president, and he became president. They didn't want that guy picking new cabinet members. They liked Lincoln's cabinet members. So what did they do? They passed a law usurping the executive powers for themselves. Oh, yeah, you can't fire those people that we like unless you get approval from the Senate, which, by the way, you will not get. So Andrew Johnson exercised his presidential powers and fired the Secretary of War, and he was impeached. And he was nearly removed from office by the Senate. He was saved by one vote. That's impeachment being wielded as a political weapon. When impeachment is used as a legitimate check, it looks very different. Of course, it's important to understand that the House can impeach the president or anyone else in the executive or judicial branch for anything that they want, anything. There's no constitutional power vested in any other branch to stop the House from impeaching anyone they want. Heck, they can impeach a senator if they want. They can impeach a member of the House of Representatives if they want. Trump keeps driving people crazy saying that they should impeach Pelosi and Schiff, and people are saying, you can't impeach members of the legislature. That is wrong. The House can impeach anybody that they want in the government, who serves in the government. They don't. They don't impeach members of the legislature because they can expel their members, so there's no need to impeach them. But all these super smart pundits telling you the House can't impeach representatives or senators, they're wrong. The very first person in American history ever impeached by the House of Representatives was a senator. They can do it. They just don't. There's no reason to. You can expel a member of the House or Senate, and that's how they're supposed to be gotten rid of. But can is different than will. Yeah, will they impeach a member of the House or Senate? No. Can they? Yup. It's been done before. Because it's easy to impeach people. There's no constitutional power vested in any other branch to stop them. There is no check over the impeachment power. The requirement for an article of impeachment to be passed is 50% plus one in the House of Representatives, full stop. It's easy to impeach the president. The framers made it easy. It's easier than passing a law. Passing a law requires 50% plus one in both houses. If you account for the procedural filibuster, it really, practically speaking, requires 50% plus one in the House of Representatives and 3/5 in the Senate. Then it requires the signature of the president. If they can't get the signature of the president, then it requires 2/3 in both houses to pass it without the president's signature. It's hard to pass a law. It's easy to impeach. 50% plus one in one house. And the reason it's easy is because that's only half the process. It's easy to accuse someone of a crime. The House has already informally done that by opening an impeachment inquiry. They've accused Trump of an impeachable offense, basically, or at least said that they think that he committed an impeachable offense and they're going to decide. They just haven't put it to a vote yet. It's the removal that they made hard. It's easy to accuse. It's hard to remove. It takes 2/3 in the Senate to remove. Right now, you have a resolution in the Senate with over 50 Republican sponsors condemning the unfair process the House is using to impeach Trump. You know what that tells me? If I use the Doppler effect, I can't see the vote whether or not to remove Trump. That's impossible. Nobody can see that. Nobody can look into the future. But I can use the Doppler effect. And I can say that if 50 Republicans are condemning the House process, that tells me right there, unless Trump has committed some shocking crime that nobody can argue with and the House has evidence of it, 2/3 of the Senate is not going to remove the president just because people don't like him and just because House Democrats don't like him. I don't believe that every Democrat in the Senate will vote for removal either. House Democrats aren't going to send all the hard work they've done smearing Trump over to the Senate so that Trump can be exonerated. They're just not going to do that. So the question is not, will Trump be impeached? The question is, does it even matter if he is? Right? Democrats have an easy weapon. There are enough members of the House for one party to unilaterally impeach the president of the other party for anything that they want. They can pass an article of impeachment that just says, orange man bad, if they want to. They can impeach him for being too bald up top. They can impeach him for winning the 2016 election, which, whatever happens, is really what they're trying to punish him for. Even Democrats know that. They're just cool with it. But if the House impeaches for nonsense and the Senate doesn't remove him from office, if they don't even come close to removing him, what does that say about the House Democrats? It will say that they used a serious check as a political weapon. It'll say that they tried to remove the elected president without just cause. It will exhaust their political capital. Fair-minded Democrats and independents who may support the impeachment inquiry will turn on them, because that's the magical thing that happens when you lose. Trump will announce that he's exonerated over and over. Vox will write some dumbass opinion article that the threshold for impeachment is too low, blah, 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 blah. But what it'll come down to is right after the impeachment, you'll have the 2020 election. And guess what's going to happen in those battleground states? They're going to be pissed that Democrats abused their power. And Trump is going to win all those battleground states again. And Democrats will have done it to themselves. Why? I don't know. What I can tell you is that this poll makes me more certain than ever that Trump will not be impeached. All right, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe on iTunes, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get podcasts. On November 5th, don't forget to subscribe to the new podcast, Every Election Ever in Beer. All right, that's it for today. I'm out of here.
Yes, emoluments, indubitably.
You just listened to Politics for Patriots with Eddie Zipper. Email the show at patriots@eddiezipper.com. And please subscribe.